Hi, welcome to this episode of Your Black World News. I'm your host, Roosevelt Mitchell III. Today I'm joined by author Anthony Kent as we are discussing another situation, a tragic situation about a pair of shoes, specifically Jordan tennis shoes. A Brooklyn native or a Brooklyn teenager, actually, a 17-year-old, lost his arm trying to rob someone for a pair of shoes. Anthony, you sent me over this article, and we just spoke about a pair of Jordans, and a lot of people lined up to buy a $650 pair of Jordans. So, what are your thoughts about this situation?
Well, after watching the video, I thought it was definitely a horrific situation. So basically, you have a 17-year-old who places a particular value on a pair of Jordans, and the transaction was supposed to be for $190. So basically, the young man pulled a gun out on the Craigslist guy who was trying to sell him the Jordans. Once the young man pulled the gun out on the Craigslist seller, he exited his SUV, and after exiting the SUV, the driver cranked up his car and then decided to run the young man over. While running him over, it severed his arm in that process, and the young man, which is amazing, he was able to actually get up and kind of hobble away from getting run over, and ultimately, he tried to make his way home, and along that way, people were watching him and saying, "Hey, you need to stop and get yourself some medical attention." But which is most important to me is that we shouldn't really focus on the issue of what actually happened. I think you should also do some analysis, understand what happened beyond the surface level. Like, how is a 17-year-old getting a situation to where they're wanting to rob someone for a pair of shoes? Like, why would you even put yourself in a situation to get run over by a car
Well,
for
this been going on,
$190?
but this has been going on with Jordan shoes for years, right? And Jordan hadn't played since 2001, 2002, and people are still fighting and shooting and killing over his shoes. But this been happening. This has been a knock against Jordan and his brand ever since his brand took off.
I totally agree with you. And like I said, trying to look beyond the surface level of what happened, I think we need to do some analysis as to why this young man got in the situation. Like, it's really not about the actual Jordans. So to me, is that you got to ask yourself a few questions. Like, how did a 17-year-old obtain a gun, which is definitely alarming? Two, why would a 17-year-old put his freedom at risk over those Jordans? And then, was this young man enrolled in school? Did he have parents that raised him right? Did he have mentors or good advisors in his life to make sure that he didn't make, poor decisions? And then also too, was his family in a financial crisis? So those are some things I initially thought about as far, when I watched the video, like, what's occurring? So my thought is, what should, the city of Brooklyn, as well as other organizations in that area, do moving forward to, ensure that situations like this are not occurring to young males? Like I said, at the age of 17, you shouldn't be pretty much throwing your life away or being run over by a car. This situation should have never even occurred.
Yeah, in this day and age, for a 17-year-old to have a gun, unfortunately, is not outside the norm, right? It's little, 7 and 8-year-olds, accidentally getting guns and killing each other or siblings and stuff, right? So, I mean, unfortunately, again, in this day and age, that's not too outside the norm. For me, just reading it, the impact of the Jordan brand, because I think it is all about the Jordan. It's about the Jordan brand. It's about the status of Jordans. I was just real hurt that a guy had to lose his arm over the Jordan brand, so it makes me want to ask you, what do you think the solution is?
Well, my thing is, anytime you see a problem, you definitely want to focus on the root cause. Anytime you're not putting effort behind identifying the root cause, these situations are going to always come up again. So my thing is, we need to put a lot of time, effort, and money into financial literacy. If this man had the right people surrounded around him, I believe this situation would have not occurred. Like I said, at the age of 17, of course, you and I know is definitely counterproductive to rob someone and lose your arm over Jordans that people put a value of $190 on. So, like I said, I think that's the most important piece. Just as a community, in families as well, we need to put more emphasis on making sure our children understand the value of a dollar, and also understanding what to do and what not to do as far as your future outlook is, because like I said, now this situation is more than likely going to haunt this young man for the rest of his life.
Right, because his arm is gone. Right, exactly.
Correct. And then also the other side of it, a lot of people probably aren't even focusing on. The man ran him over, so he has charges pending against him, but that was never that guy's intention. So most people, I believe humans, we aren't naturally evil or aggressive individuals. Sometimes I feel like when you're put in a certain situation, that might propel you to act in a different manner. So in this case, when someone pulls a gun out on you, you don't know what you're likely or liable to do. So unfortunately, I don't think the man who ran him over is an evil person to any extent. It's just a simple fact that he had a gun pulled out of him, and some of those emotions came out. So him running over that young man was kind of like a self-defense mechanism. Of course, some people might think it was a little excessive, but at the same time too, when the gun's pulled out on you, you don't know what you are liable to do at that point in time. So that's the hardest part about that too. So now you have a man who was just trying to sell some Jordans and make money. Now he's facing criminal charges because he ran a 17-year-old over.
Yeah, he's facing attempted murder to be exact. But do you think that the ultimate root is, or the ultimate solution is financial literacy, or teaching our children about brands, about the power of brands?
Well, I think it's both. I think while you're actually talking about the power of brands, you're also talking about financial literacy, because the branding perspective ultimately from a business perspective is all about money. So when we talk about branding with our children, in essence, you also are talking about financial literacy. So I think it's important, and it really starts at home, that parents are sitting down with their children and teaching them the reality of brands. Like for example, the Jordan, as I said before, Jordan Nike have built an awesome brand, but at the end of the day, Jordans might cost $5 to $10 to make in a factory, yet they're being sold for $200, right? So my thing is, parents need to make sure they're instilling that knowledge in their children to understand, hey, this is like a luxury item. This isn't something that you have to have, and this is definitely something that you shouldn't go put your freedom and your future on the line for. Because like I said, this young man is 17 years old. He hasn't even lived yet, and now he's going to have a criminal record, and potentially you probably can't use your arm anymore. I think that, the doctors are trying to put the arm back on. I don't know what the outcome was, but pretty much I'm sure his arm is going to be damaged for the rest of his life, even if he has an arm.
Yeah, okay. Due to the systematic structures of prison industrial complex and the breakup of the black family, let's just say that the parents aren't financially literate. If that's the case, where else can children get or become financially literate?
So when the parents aren't heavily involved in the children's life, that presents a major problem. We understand that. Outside of that, hopefully, this young man or other people in that situation, they would have someone else in their lives that would steer them in the right direction. So, there's mentor organizations, there's, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, there's different, mentor organizations in different states. So, I can't name one that's going to apply to every state that you live in. But like I said, I think it really starts with mentorship and having someone, guide you in the right direction and telling you what you should and should not do. Also, being involved in church. I think if this man had a sound religious background, this event would have probably not occurred as well. Also, too, he probably, if he had some other positive role models in his life, whether it be uncles or people in the community, I also believe this situation would not happen as well. So I think as parents, if you don't have the knowledge and background to instill those essential life skills in your children, I think it's essential that you find organizations that can help them, build character and become financially literate as well.
What about the educator? What about school? What amount of responsibility does the school have to teach kids, about branding, about financial literacy?
Well, you know, you and myself, as well as others, around the nation, we've been to school, right? And we've all had kind of similar experiences in school. So, as you know, financial literacy hasn't been one of the major core pieces of curriculum for school. And that's probably not going to change anytime soon. So, with that being said, I think it's important that we continue to encourage schools to implement those financial pieces with financial literacy as well as branding into the school um, into the school system. Also, a lot of it has to do with voting. A lot of schools, a lot of public school systems right now are going through some major challenges. So I think also parents being heavily involved in the PTA in their schools to actually get some of those financial pieces incorporated into school curriculum is highly important. Outside of that, I think it's also important that parents seek out opportunities outside of the school system to make sure their children are getting exposed to financial literacy as far as the network you guys lead. There's also other organizations out there they can get involved into as well. Like I said, based off where you live, there's going to be different organizations that young adults can get aligned to. So it's different across the board. It really just starts at home. Pretty much if you don't get that home sound parenting, then it's going to be a major challenge moving forward with any child. So I can't say there's one solution. I think there has to be multiple solutions that ultimately will groom that child and push them in the right direction.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Anthony. And I'd like for you to tell the audience how they can reach you or contact you if they have any questions.
To learn more about me, you can visit www.theyouthaadvisor.com to purchase a book as well. Also, my book is available on Amazon.com as well as Barnes and Nobles.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope you all enjoyed this segment of Your Black World News. And until next time, my friends, be blessed and be encouraged.